Okay, good morning, everybody. So my name is Bob Patel. I'm with Century 21 Jordan Link and Company out of Visalia, California, in the Central Valley. And me and my counterpart, Mitz Matsunami in Fresno, we always do MoxiWorks Hour for our brokerage. And lately, over the last 6 months, we've invited anybody in the Century 21 franchise to attend our office trainings because I figured, hey, might as well teach everybody if we can, because we're all using the same set of tools. So to kick off 2025, I figured what's the best way to do it is get everybody on board on how to use Engage the way it's meant to be. So I invited Jimmy McNally from Vegas to come and give that training because I understand the system as a marketing person and a tech person, but I do not sell real estate. So I need his perspective as a real estate agent and a trainer on how to use Moxie. So we're going to do a two-part. The first part, Jimmy's going to talk about how to set up your account the way it's supposed to be set up. And correct me if I'm wrong. And session two, we're going to talk about some of the automation and the marketing that we can do with the campaign. So Jimmy, I am going to hand it over to you, and screen sharing is allowed, and I'll just make sure I pin you. So whenever you're ready.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much, Bob, for having me. It's truly an honor, especially for you, Bob, because you're like my counterpart, I feel like, when it comes to a lot of this MoxiWorks stuff. So I appreciate you reaching out, and I love doing this kind of stuff. So thank you for having me. And like Bob discussed today, so this is a two-part series around MoxiEngage, really around the sales flow. Today is going to be understanding how the sales flow works and really going through some of those settings to make sure you are set up and ready to go when we start moving people and moving our database through the sales flow. I'll explain what the sales flow is and all that good stuff here in just a little bit. Now, next week, what we'll end up doing is we're going to really walk through, like, if maybe we have time today, just you're going to have to tell me time, Bob, like, okay, like raise your hand. That's it. Really walking through and how my agents are using the sales flow, moving somebody through it all the way to closing and then back into the marketing standpoint. And with some of those things are going to be some automated marketing tools and stuff like that that we have when we go into it. So I'm going to go ahead, share my screen and get started here. Not that screen. Christine, how you doing? I haven't seen a lot of you guys in a while, man. How many people are going to leadership and top agent here in the next couple months? Am I going to see anybody? Anyway, sorry. I will get back on course. So again, thank you for the introduction. My name is Jimmy McNally. I am actually a real estate agent, a sales manager of 3 offices with Century 21 Beggins down here in the sunny state of Florida. It's not very sunny today. But and I'm also the technology manager for our entire brokerage. We have 11 offices, about 600 and so agents, and I'm kind of responsible for on the technology side, but I also use this on a daily basis and help train it out. So you're getting a perspective of all three across the board. Someone who teaches it, someone who teaches agents to incorporate it into their business during coachings and accountability, and then also as a real estate agent, how I actually use the system and get around on it. This will be my shameless plug. Feel free to look up hashtag BatRealtor, and you will definitely find me dressing up like Batman and actually showing houses and doing videos. I hope this doesn't really take away from what I'm going to teach you today, but it's definitely there for if you want to. And like we discussed, we're going to be talking about MoxiEngage, specifically the sales flow. Now, before we really get into anything, I do want to give a quick reminder and shout out that Moxie websites did migrate over to the Amazon Web Services, AWS, and we have till the end of this month, if you own a vanity domain like batrealtor.com, jimmymcnally.com, bobpatel.com, we need to make sure those DNS settings are updated. Your leadership should have received information on what settings need to change. And also, as you're getting into Moxie websites, you should start seeing a little pop-up now that tells you what settings need to change. So if you own a vanity domain, please make sure you are getting in and getting those things updated by the end of the month. So you
Then you say upward to head.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that? Okay.
No, sorry, Jimmy. That was just me. I was looking for the video that I recorded on changing the DNS settings, and I'm going to share it in the chat.
Yes, awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just make sure you're on top of it. We don't want anyone to get frustrated come February 1st and the websites aren't working the way they're supposed to. So if you own a domain, if any domain that's being pushed over to Moxie, then that's all you. Whatever he puts in there, watch that video and get that set up for you. And as always, we're available if you have questions or need anything. So as we get into MoxiEngage, I like kind of talking about really what's in it for you, right? Everybody wants to learn a system. Everybody likes the new latest and greatest, the new tech trends. They want something automated, but really what does it come down to for agents and what can it do for you? So this slide right here actually shows on average agents that use MoxiEngage versus those that do not make $30,000 more. Okay, $30,000 more. Now, for me in Florida, and the balmy 46 degrees, I know some of you are in like the teens and even under, and tomorrow I'm going to be at 80. But in Florida, that's three extra deals a year by using MoxiEngage the way it's supposed to. Anybody here on this call, give me a raise of hands, whatever it is. Anybody want a little bit more money? Would $30,000 help out? Would that help you with your goals? I see a few hands going up there. I won't even talk about the other pieces of Moxie. MoxiEngage is $30,000 more. Now, to do this, you got to use the system the right way. It's not just about setting up a campaign and that's it. It's all around the follow-up to see what's going in with your database. And that's really where we're going to be focusing today. And it's understanding the sales flow. Now, you can see a picture on the right here. This is a picture of what the sales flow looks like on your dashboard. Has everybody seen this and at least and has questions like, what is that? What is this thing called the sales flow? I don't understand. They say it's a transaction. The sales flow is an all-in-one view of your transactions that you're working with. And I'm going to give you the definition from Moxie on this, and then I'm going to give you my spin because I think it makes more sense sometimes. Okay, each sales flow zone is a milestone for an individual's client's progress toward a successful transaction. Each zone includes a task list to help you stay on top of the transaction and keep a steady pipeline for your business. These task lists can be customized by adding or removing any task while moving through the transaction. They can also be updated for all future transaction within Engage settings, and we're going to spend some time on that. Basically, your sales flow, okay? The sales flow is your pipeline. It's this cyclical thing that's going to keep going around, okay? They start out in marketing, move up to prospects, then you have active, pending, and then once it's closed, they're going to come all the way back into the marketing side, okay? Now, as we go through each one of these, each zone, your clients are going to be in one of these 4 zones unless you decide to choose them as a collaborator or personal, or maybe you don't put them on a marketing plan whatsoever. And marketing, the way I look at it, this is going to be all of your past clients. This is where probably most of your people are going to sit, is going to be the marketing flow. Okay. To me, these are clients that have not decided to do business with you yet. It's not time for them yet. It could be a past client. They're a past client. Okay. They're not someone who's looking at buying or selling or doing something real estate related at this time. Right. When we get to the prospect side, to me, that is someone who has decided to work with you and wants to buy or sell. They're just not quite there yet. Okay, so they raise their hand, they want to buy something, they want to sell, but they're not ready yet. It could be financing, it could be they could be looking at, waiting for some pay stubs for a new job. They're getting ready to move. They're just trying to get a touch kind of feel for what's happening in the market. Or you meet with that seller that says, I want to sell, and there's a lot of things they want to do to the house to get it ready. Or again, possibly maybe they're waiting for the end of school when everybody graduates so they can sell and move to the beach after their kids go off to college, right? Then we go into the active side, and these are literally these are your clients that are either have a listing or they are going to be buying. They're pre-approved. You're out there showing houses and you're ready to go. Okay, so these are your active clients that are actually out there buying and selling real estate. And then finally, when you get to your pending, these are all your database or clients that are actually under contract. Okay. So it starts, and when you get a lead, so most of the time when we get someone who says, I'm interested in buying, they're going to go between one of these 2, prospects and actives. But if you're reaching out and you're doing those income producing activities and they're not in the market to buy or sell right now, but you continue on a follow up, we would have them over in the marketing phase. Okay. And again, as this moves through, as you take someone from marketing and then they say that they want to sell, they come this way, they come to actives, and they go to pending. Now, within each one of these, there are specific follow-up tasks that are tied to this. You do not see what, Monica? Do you see my screen?
I see it on my end, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Maybe you accidentally double clicked on my picture or something that popped up. See if you can grab the other one. Okay, so as we're going through these 4 different buckets, if you want to say, there's specific tasks that are tied to each one of these. Just my profile photo will not let me turn my video on nor audio. All right,
Huh. That's weird.
I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Let's try this again. All right, here's my presentation. Do we see that?
Yeah, my Fresno office sees it fine. My other
I
office
see.
sees it
Yes. Okay.
fine.
All right, so getting back into it, again, these are those 4 buckets, and each one of those are going to have specific tasks that we need to follow up. Now, as an agent who is looking at their pipeline in business, when I look at a pending sale or my pending clients, to me, that's somebody in the next 0 to 45 days that's going to close. Okay, so that's my paycheck. When I go to active, that's probably somebody who is going to be, oops, too far. Active, that's probably going to be, let's say, a month to 3 or 4 months. So it's someone who does need to do these things, but we're not quite under contract yet. A prospect is probably 3 to 6 months, maybe even longer. And then marketing is probably over a year. So let me ask you a question on this. If I have somebody who needs to be in a house in 30 days versus somebody who's thinking about buying, I think I want to buy. I heard that it's a good time to buy here in 2025. Your follow-up is going to be a little bit different, right? Give me a raise of hands if you follow up differently with someone who needs to find a house in the next 30 days versus someone who says, yeah, I think I want to, isn't pre-approved yet. We don't even know what's going on. We don't even know an area. Raise your hand if you're going to follow up differently with each one of those. Okay. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate it for those of you doing that, right? So the way this is set up is the activities that you have underneath this for the follow-up tasks are going to be different per basically bucket. Okay. Now, the one biggest thing that I will tell you with all this, which we're going to spend some time on, is setting up these tasks and follow-up tasks to how you do business. Because Bob is going to follow up with his buyers that are active and need to go in the next 30 days differently than I am, differently than Christine's going to. Okay. And I'm definitely going to follow up with somebody who is not even interested in doing anything with me, who's in marketing, that I still want to stay top of mind, but I'm not going to follow up with them weekly like I am somebody who is an active seller, active buyer, right? So the plan, what we're going to go through here in just a second, is taking a look at the kind of the follow-up tasks that are already set in MoxiWorks by default, just so you get an understanding of what it looks like. And then I'm going to actually walk you through how to change some of these to how you do business, because I think that's very, very important. And I will tell you for myself, I don't follow half of the stuff that Moxie has as a default in there. So I went and made my own. So that way, every time I put somebody into a buyer, an active buyer, I get the follow-up plan that I will work. Because I will tell every agent that's on here right now, if the follow-up plan is not how you do business, you are never going to want to log in. You're never going to click on that. You're never going to want to use the system. But if it's set up for the way you want to, you will come in here because it's doing the things that you want to and just reminding you. A couple ways to see what some of these tasks are going to be. You can actually pull up the contact card, and here's a snapshot of what it would look like here. And these are some of those follow-up tasks that are tied to this specific one that is a marketing plan. And then you can also, on your dashboard, which is where I recommend to go, is log in every day, look at your to-do list, click on your transaction task, and it will tell you who you need to follow up with and when and how. Now, let me ask you one more question before I actually start going into all this stuff. Would you like the capability of logging into a system and the system tells you that you need to follow up with these people today, knowing that tomorrow they will have another group of people that you need to follow up with, and the day after, you know the system will be populating these follow-up tasks for you. So you don't have to go digging for who do I need to follow up with, when do I need to follow up with, and I'm not talking about the automated stuff. I'm talking about text message, calls, things like that. What if I told you the system, you could set it up for yourself that it will tell you who you need to follow up with so you can get out there and do what you do best, which is actually talking to people and generating other opportunities, not just doing follow-up, right? And this system would. Now, Donna, you said, I wish there would be a way I could delete everything and put your own stuff there. Well, guess what, Donna? That's what today is about. I'm going to show you how you can delete those things and how you can create a new task list based on what it is. So update your follow-up task list before you start using this. I would not recommend to put anybody into the sales flow yet until you have your tasks set up the way that you want. Now, you still can't put them in as an active buyer or active seller. You can still do all those things, but the follow-up task lists are only for when you make the adjustments. It's going to be after you're done making those adjustments, you'll see them start populating in there. And then follow up the way you want to. So any questions just on the basic overview of what the sales flow is before I actually start getting in and showing you where all this stuff is?
Nope, nothing. You're all good.
Sweet. All right, so let's go ahead and get into Moxie. I'm going to go the long way. We're going to go to 21 online. I'm going to do this super short and sweet. Productivity Hub, alphabetical order, and I'm just going to go grab one of the Moxies tabs. If you've never gone into Moxie, that's how you want to get in. That's how you want to get in there first. Now, what I will tell you to do is once you get to one of these pages, save this URL so you don't have to go through the extra steps of going through 21 online. You can go, you still have to sign in, but you can directly get to Moxie. And obviously with Moxie, you can easily get between all the different platform pieces. All right, so now that we're in Moxie, I already have MoxiEngage up. So this is your dashboard. We're not going to go into setting anything up quite yet. Thank you, Bob, for throwing that in there. I appreciate it. This dashboard, you can actually adjust however you'd like. So if follow-up is really important to you and your sales flow and your pipeline is one of the most important things to you, I highly recommend taking a look at the right-hand side and moving these around to what you want to see. You know, Bob is really, really big on his goals. He wants to be like at 100% right away. So when he logs in, he sees where his goals are at. My recommendation, if you're going to be using the sales flow and your to-do list, is to have one of these be the first two things that you see. Here's my pipeline. Here's my business. I can see here I actually switched over to another agent so I can show you what it looks like, what most of you are already looking at it. I can see that this agent has one pending, so that means he's getting one paycheck in the next 45 days. He's got nothing active right now, so as a leader, I'm like, what do we got going on? How can we focus on these prospects and move them up?
Hey, Jimmy, real quick, can you
Yeah.
increase your magnification? I think you have it shrunk. There you go. You have it shrunk down just a little bit.
All right. You good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm just on my dashboard. I just moved a couple things around. Sales flows first. At any point, I can click on this and say, well, who is pending? I can click on it. It'll actually take me to the My People page, and it will actually have all of your people and the one person that is pending right now. Okay. I'm going to go back out of this, back to the dashboard. The next section is your to-do list. If you're going to use this system and use the follow-up tasks the way that they're meant to be, this is probably one of the best little sections to save you time and get you moving. Specifically, the transaction task lists. So when I click on this, you'll see that there's nothing for this agent to do whatsoever. Now we're going to move somebody. I'm going to add somebody to it so you can see what it looks like in just a moment. Okay. This though will tell you who you need to follow up with and when, the timing, even whatever you put in for these follow-up. If you're using Moxie stuff, it will actually have all these things populated for you. So here's one place that you actually see the transaction tasks. Now these transaction tasks are only for your prospects, actives, and pendings. This is your business. These are the true clients that you're working with. You're going to see all of those follow-up transaction tasks tied to these three on this page. Now I'm going to pull up a contact real quick just so you can see what it looks like on the profile card. So as I go into this Jimmy McNasty, he's a really nice guy though. His last name isn't, but he's a really good dude. You can see here, this person on the left-hand side is in the marketing bucket. So whenever you put somebody in the sales flow, you're going to see on the left-hand side here, you're going to see what bucket they're actually in. And then you can kind of come down here and see what some of these tasks are for this person. Okay. Now, this is telling me that on the 21st, I'm going to need to update the team on a status of a lead. See, a lot of these do not make sense for me and a lot of other agents. These are just the defaults for each section of the sales flow. And again, we're getting ready to walk through some settings and how to actually change some of this stuff. Now, the really cool thing as we start going into some of these is when you have schedule a meeting, you're able to easily schedule a meeting here and it will tie to, let's say, your Google Calendar, if that's what you have synced up. You have things, let's say if I make this person make him a prospect and I turn him into a buyer. Okay, again, I don't want to go too much in this because I will walk through this on the next one. But you'll actually start seeing things like creating a buyer's presentation that I can actually click on. It will make a presentation, a buyer presentation for this client of mine. Started already. There is no app, Candace. All right. Now what I'm going to do is before we go into each one of these and actually start working through the sales flow is now it's time before we start putting people in the sales flow to set it up the way it needs to. So to set up your tasks and your MoxiEngage, after you've got in here, you want to come up to this little cog next to the find people, and we're going to go to engage tasks, engage settings. Okay. From this page, you have a lot of different things that you're able to do. You can adjust what neighborhood news looks like, what some of your listing announcements, some of those automated things that you probably want to have set up if you're going to be using the system. Let's see. Julie, you said if we have a buyer's presentation completed already. No, it does not directly go to that one, unfortunately. The main settings I want you to start with in here are one, the calendar and the special dates. Okay, we're going to click on special dates because this is important if you're going to be working through the sales flow with somebody. If you have their birthday, what we want to do is we want to edit these notifications and we want them to come up on our calendar. We want them to auto add them to our calendar and then start to remind us about these things that are popping up. Okay, everything from birthdays, anniversaries, and house anniversaries. Why do you all think we should have a house anniversary, or birthday to automatically pop up on our calendar that we're using every single day? What do you got for me?
You can
Why?
reach out to them every year.
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off is that follow-up after the closing to kind of go through and stay in touch. So if you're going through this system and you're going to learn next week when I actually move somebody in, I put a closing in, I close it out and I go through it. It's going to automatically put these things on my calendar afterwards, after we've closed and put them into the system, which is absolutely amazing. Again, a lot of this is time saving once you learn how to use a system. And it's important to turn these on because there's going to be things down the line that we want to make sure are popping up on our calendar when we do it. The next step we're going to get into is the task manager. And this is really where it does take some time. My recommendation for you as an agent is look at what's here. Maybe I have a generic one that I have for my agents if they've never done any business, so they can kind of get an idea follow-up wise. But look at how you like to do business, how you like to follow up, write it down so you have it right there. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to start adjusting some of these plans. So it's going to remind you when to follow up the way you would like to follow up and how often. So remember, there's four buckets in the sales flow: marketing, prospect, active, and pending. So the first section here is your marketing plans. There's two different ones. There's a marketing plan and then there's a leads marketing plan. Then you have the sales plans. These are the ones that are going to pop up in your transaction tasks on your dashboard when you have somebody who is a prospect, active, or pending, and they're broken into two sections. You have a buyer plan and a seller plan. Okay, so there's transaction tasks for a buyer prospect and one for a seller prospect. Same thing with pending and active. So I'll start with the marketing plan to just show you how to move stuff, but I really like spending time on like a buyer and seller plan because to me it just kind of hits home a little bit better going through that. So to change these automated plans that are by default that are set up by Moxie, you're going to click the customize button here. And then you're going to notice here that these are 10 tasks for 75 days for somebody that's in marketing. The question that popped up was the difference between the leads marketing plan and a marketing plan. So if you ever get a lead that comes through Leads Engine, that comes from your brokerage, or even comes through your website, directly through your website, they're considered a new lead. And they can have a different marketing plan. Right now, by default, the marketing plan for leads and this are the same. are basically the same. Okay. You could tweak it however you would like. If you want to decide that with a new lead that comes in, if you would like to do something a little bit different, you can definitely do it. So let me ask you this. If you have someone in a marketing plan, it's only 75 days. So this is only 75 days worth of some type of follow-up. It's only 10 things within 75 days. Does anybody think that 75 days, if I have a past client, or let's say the majority of my people are in a marketing plan, 75 days isn't even 3 months. So if I put somebody in this, this is going to have me do some things for the next like 3 months. Donna, yes, I'll send it out. Okay. So, and this is what they're doing. So if you look at here, this is the first task on the marketing side that says make a follow-up or personal call and reach out on social media. I think this is a great task. And how this is going to work is when I put somebody into each one of these sections on the left-hand side, you see where it says task due on. It's not by a specific date. Okay. These go in increments. So when I add somebody, if I take Bob and I add him to the marketing plan, in 10 days, I'm going to need to make a follow-up call or personal call. And then 5 days after that, here where it says day 15, I need to set him up on neighborhood news and subscribe him to some type of monthly newsletter. 5 days after that, I'm going to give him a call. 5 days after that, I'm going to try and schedule a meeting with him. 5 more days after that, I'm going to reach out on social. You get the idea, right? And this goes on for 75 days. To make adjustments to this, actually, I think I'm gonna show you how to make it on the buyer side. I'm gonna do a buyer plan instead after this one, just to show you how to make the changes. But I want you to think of when you have somebody who's in marketing, how often should you follow up with them? And then from there, that's what needs to go in here. So if I like following up just monthly with all of my, let's say, past clients or anybody that's in marketing, I'm gonna tweak this the way that I want. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back real quick because I want to get into like a buyer and seller plan. Because again, setting it up is going to be similar no matter which plan you actually choose. So let's go ahead to the buyer plan real quick. Let's go ahead and customize that. So again, buyer, we have prospect, active, and pending. Okay, seller, we have prospect, active, and pending. You can see all these up at the top here. So when Bob goes onto my website and says, "Hey, I'm interested in this house," and I get this lead and he's a prospect. This is saying, okay, you know what, Jimmy? Let's schedule a meet and greet for him in a week. This is going to pop up on my task list 7 days from when I put Bob in here. That is no go. That is no good. Okay. This should happen right away, right? We know that speed to lead is so important. If you're out at the gas station and someone says, "Oh, you work for Century 21, I want to buy a house." Awesome. Well, I'm going to wait 7 days until I actually try to schedule something with them. No, it doesn't make sense. So the cool thing when you're looking at all of these is on the right-hand side, I can easily hit this little X and I can remove it. So if I don't like something, as long as it's not grayed out, so you're going to see, for instance, the buyer presentation is not as grayed out, so I cannot remove that. This is a Moxie platform. They want you to use all of their stuff. I'm going to go ahead and put that back in here. The other thing I can do is I can come over here and just change the day. So on day 0, or sorry, day 1, so on day 1, after I've met, let's say Bob and I talked while we were out, on day 1, it's going to pop up on my task list and say, schedule a meet and greet with Bob. I can schedule it all through everything here. It talks about conducting a meet and greet. So this is how we do business. I'm scheduling a meet and greet right away. I am going to give you a buyer presentation right away because that's going to set me apart and allow me to show up better with what we have going on. I'm going to schedule within 3 days. I'm going to schedule a review of that, if not the same day. Again, this is why it's different for each person. I said I needed to create that, not on day 15. This needs to be done right away. So you can see how everything's moving. So day 1, I'm going to do a few things. Day 3, I'm doing something. This is way off. I'm probably not going to do that. Does anybody still mail thank you cards to their leads, buyers, sellers when you meet them? Okay, I got a couple hands. So let me ask you that. Jody, I saw someone on your team that did that. So how quickly do you send a mail a thank you card when you when you meet a buyer? Is it like the next day? You might just have to shake your head yes or no, like, yeah, no. Next day? Okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put that on day 2. All right. But Bob, I'm using you a lot, Bob. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all good.
Hey, Bob, listen. You don't do it. You don't mail anything. That's not you. You don't do the mail thing. So I'm
Okay.
just gonna take it off. Okay. So you see how you can adjust this based on how you do things. Now this plan specifically goes all the way to getting them to get a signed agreement. So in our case in Florida, like an EBBA, showing agreement, things like that. But let me ask you this. Do your prospect, someone who wants to buy but's not quite ready, is 30 days enough to move them into an active buyer? Maybe. I don't know. So what we've done is we've done a whole bunch of different follow-ups, and I'll show you mine when I finish kind of walking through this. We've done, you probably want to push this out further than 30 days because if they're not ready to sign this agreement right here, we still need to continue to follow up with them. It could be monthly, it could be bi-weekly. You may want to set them up on neighborhood news. You may want to set them up on a campaign. And again, I'll show you what some of those look like in just a second. Now, let's say you want to add another day in here. Let's say you want to add something, okay? To add anything to it, let's say you want to add a couple extra follow-up points for the next 60, 90 days or something like that. On any one of these, prospect, active, or pending, same thing with the seller side, and same thing with your marketing side. All you have to do is click Add Task. You can search from all the tasks that Moxie already has in here. Okay, they're all in alphabetical order. Feel free to dig through these to find out what you want. I mean, there's a lot of information that's actually in here that you can choose from. But let's say, for instance, I just want to, did I miss the follow-up one? Buyer agreement. I'm just trying to find what I want in here. All right, let's say I want to do a follow-up email. Let's just use this. If I hit plus, it's going to automatically go to the bottom, or I can actually click on it. It's going to say, when do I want this done? So right now, everything's set up through the like for 30 days. So let's say I want to do a follow-up email on the 45th day, so 15 days later. And you know what? I want to also do it another 2 weeks, 60 days. You know what? Let's go ahead and do it 75. Well, not 750. So as I add all these tasks that are from Moxie, you can see now as I come down here, we have try to obtain a signed agreement. And then I'm just following up every 2 weeks. And again, if I have this set up for like 6 months, then I can turn around and know that the system every day is going to tell me again who I need to follow up with and when. And I won't have to go back in saying, when am I supposed to follow up with this person again? Now, let's say, for instance, yes, you can search right here and you can type in follow up. You can type in social, do all that. Now, the other thing you can do is let's say you have very specific things that you want to do that are not in here. You can actually create a new task and you can add that for yourself if you'd like. So let's say, for instance, for all your buyers, you send a video of yourself via text, getting a face with the name. Okay. So now, when I get a new lead, how I do business is I'm going to try and conduct a meet and greet. I'm going to make a buyer's presentation. Whoa, this needs to change. Sorry. I have too much OCD to not leave that there. So I'm going to create a buyer's presentation. I'm going to schedule a meet and greet, and then I'm going to send a video via text. And this is what's going to pop up on my task list every single time I have a new buyer prospect that's in there. And this is just getting somebody to sign an agreement, and it's time to start looking at properties. So once it's time to start looking at properties, I'm going to go ahead and save this for now. Now, if you notice that pop up, I'll do it again on this next one. It only will work for the newer people that are coming into Moxie. Okay. So if I already have somebody in this sales flow somewhere, by making these adjustments, they will not be there until you take them out and put them back in. Okay. Let's take a look at these active. So I got an active buyer. All right. This says mail a gift. Does anybody mail gifts? Okay. I don't mail gifts. I'm sorry. My presence is their gift. I'm just kidding. Some of these, what I like to do with some of these are because you may have someone who's pre-approved, ready to go, and they're ready to start working. I like to put some of the same things from the prospecting into the active, like sending a buyer presentation, scheduling, an interview and stuff like that, just to make sure that we're good to go. But all of these follow-up tasks would be very similar. So if you go through again, this is what's here. Again, make these adjustments based on how you like to do that. But we know the buyer life cycle, this only goes for 41 days. It could take a buyer. How many people have buyers that have been waiting a year and a half that are approved? Are we going to stop following up after day 41? No. So you need to come in here and continue to make some of these tasks. So when you finally move somebody in, it continues to do the follow-up that you need to, or remind you. So every week or every other week, an active should be followed up with pretty much every week, I think. And it could be scheduling interviews. It could be or scheduling showings. Okay. So you want to come in here and you kind of want to tweak this. I love scheduling home tours. I put that on multiple times. Try to do that every single week with them. Hey, did you see these properties that came up? Whatever that looks like, you put it in here. How do you prompt for each task? The tasks automatically will prompt for your your prospects, active and pending, will be on your dashboard. Okay, so I will put somebody on this in a second and I'll show you what that looks like. So again, if you log in every day, as long as this is set up the way that you want, you're going to be good to go. All right. So again, I'm not going to take a whole bunch of time actually creating one here. You saw how to actually edit this. Again, look at how you do business, how you like to follow up, and adjust these and take the things off so you know you're going to end up using a follow-up plan. Next up are your pending. When you're under contract, this is fantastic for for everybody, especially for your newer agents that aren't quite sure once something comes out, once you get something under contract, like what are the steps that you have to do? So we call it the critical date timeline at our office, where we submit that. We have to submit our contract paperwork to title, to our back office that actually does anything, and continues to go through that entire process. Now, this is the thing. These are going to adjust a little bit per contract. So if you come in here, I'm not waiting 3 days to submit a contract to the title company. That's getting done right away. I'm dispersing the contract to everybody that needs to right away. I'm creating a deadline calendar right away. And Florida, for the submit earnest, remember, we have the buyer on this. Typically, it's within 3 days that it has to be put in. Again, it's going to change based on how this actually goes through. Schedule inspection. I'm not waiting 7 days for an inspection. We're probably scheduling this on day 1. And then you have some follow-up things here. So everything from obtaining the deposit receipt, lender follow-up. You have some of these conditions that are not grayed out. Okay. So, I mean, they're grayed out, so you cannot take them away. But this is property disclosures, water tests, buyer property form, all these different things that come with a buyer. All right. And some of the other things that I like to add are following up with title weekly and also following up with the lender weekly. And Christine, no, you cannot make follow-up plans for the entire brokerage, unfortunately. I wish you could. I'd have it done, and then I wouldn't even have to do the training. I could just be like, hey, here you go. All right. So, but what I like about this part of this is very, very important in the pending. Same thing for sellers or buyers. This is very, very important. I would not take any of these things out here at the end, which are scheduling a 1-month follow-up, scheduling 12 months, scheduling 2 days, maybe you don't do it as much, but this is where you're going to go in and actually schedule that follow-up for your past client. This is very important. I have so many agents. I even forget to do this. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, geez, what's going on? Because remember I said the dates are important. Let's make sure those things pop up. The way I remember now when I had a closing is because it comes on my phone and it actually pops up on my calendar. But that's when it reminds me. But if I use this system, it's going to actually schedule. It's going to tell me to schedule these follow-ups with my buyer and with my seller after we close. Okay. So take a look at these. I'll send out, I actually have a PDF that has kind of like a generic kind of setup for all of these. Okay, so I'll share that with Bob. He can get it out to everybody, I guess, and just kind of see what you think. Again, it's just a starting point to see what you like and what you don't like. Okay, so that's the buyer side. Seller's going to be very similar, but let's talk about the seller side first. Because an active seller is actually a seller that is live. Okay. So an active seller is not someone who's just like, yeah, I want to sell my house. Their house is on the market. So your regular prospecting task, again, adjust this the way that you want to. And this walks you through from scheduling an appointment, doing a walkthrough, ordering photography, creating a seller's presentation. Again, all these things I would adjust because some of these need to come up. A seller's presentation needs to happen right away. Scheduling a walk, like this stuff needs to happen right away. And then there needs to be some follow-up afterwards that we're going to be adding to all of this that you have there. And then it goes all the way to the point when a seller's under prospect, getting them to sign a listing agreement. And once that listing agreement gets signed, then we move them over to active. And this is where once they become active, scheduling photography, submitting paperwork, staging, all those different things that you're going to do when you actually have a listing. But I think what's important in here, when I look at all these different things, a lot of these we have taken out. But what we have added to this is a lot of weekly updates for our sellers. So it's automatically going to tell you, hey, you need to send an update to Bob. How are the showings looking? And we even put like sending the golden ruler report and things like that, actually populating these things. So it's reminding the agents that communication is key and we need to follow up with these people that we're actually working for at this point. All the way to getting something under contract. Once the property goes under contract, we go to pending. Excuse me. Same thing. Submitting paperwork, updating status, inspection. This is more on the seller side, how you would be doing follow-up, even down to like getting utility contacts, doing some of those things that are in there. But again, what I want you to do is look at these and see what makes sense for you in the time frame of it. Because closings are going to change. Closings could be in 2 weeks. Closings could be in 45 days. So this will be what I do when I get something under contract is I actually adjust each one of these per client once it goes in. So I'm going to stop here for 1 second and just see if anybody has any questions on changing how to change your tasks. So I have a question that says, can you push back or move forward these reminders? So yes, you can. So Nicole, the plan is going to be, this is going to be when you make it, this is going to be your plan unless you use what Moxie has, okay? Once you make that and you move somebody into, let's say, a prospect as a buyer, it will they'll start the process for the follow-up tasks. From there, you can adjust, and I'll show you when I get to the dashboard how you can change timing on it, or actually when you change somebody that's from their profile card, how to actually change that timing for you. And then you also, can we add a client that signs a listing, but when it hits the market 2 months ago? Yeah, I mean, you could definitely still do that and you can put them in active. I would add some different tasks or move some stuff around so you're still continuing to follow up with them. How do I move people from my marketing and sales flow? Okay, I might get to that one. See if there's anything else on here before I move forward. Bob, I love that. And you set up neighborhood news for every potential seller. Like that is on my list. Like things like that. Use the tools we have. Put them on holiday campaigns. Put them on like all of those things are kind of like in my plan.
Great mind think alike.
Yep. Can you mark certain contacts with a referral label? Not with referral. You'd have to put them into a group if there's something like that. After we make the task list, can we go back and apply the new task list? Once you make the new task list and you save it, you have to remove them from the sales flow before it won't update that task. You'd have to individually do each one or take them out and put them back in. Yes, Monica, there is a 2025 holiday campaign now available. There's also a new seller presentation available too. All right, so now that we've done that, let's see, let's go back to Jimmy. I'm going to grab a different one now. Yes, Christine. So that is a great point about putting too many people in your sales flow. And I learned the hard way. We put like hundreds and hundreds of people that are actually on it. Now remember, these plans are set up. Okay. I'm going to move this person to active real quick. These plans are set up when what I just did there with this buyer, when I put them into active, that's when the timer starts. So you can see day one, what I have to do first. Okay. If I take 700 people and put them all as prospects on the same day, on day one, the next day, guess how many people I will have to follow up if they were all buyer prospects and I'm going to do a buyer presentation the next day? How many
All of
people do I have to? All of them. So my recommendation is to do a little bit at a time. They have something called, I can actually show you an easy way to put a handful in at a time. But try not to do too many at one time or you're never going to want to follow up with them because you're going to have way too many people to actually follow up with. So while I'm under this contact card, I can show you here how to do a couple things. So if I'm in here and I've already scheduled this buyer's interview, like I can either click schedule it, I can tie the contact directly to it. I can put the time that it actually is and it will schedule the appointment for me. It'll actually tie your contact into that also. But let's say, for instance, let's say if I check it off here, it goes away. Let's say, for instance, I'm not going to mail a thank you note until later. I can actually come in and I can edit when that's going to go out. So this is easily, I can change and I can even add this. If this is that important, I can add it to my calendar too. Remember how I said syncing your calendar up to this is pretty important. So I can easily make adjustments to the timing of this, especially when you go under pending, because each pending contract is done a little bit differently. Timing is always off a little bit. But if you're on your dashboard, remember, all I got to do is if I click this task list right here, now this is showing me what I need to do and when I need to do it. And this is really where everything works great with Moxie because, again, right now I don't have anybody to follow up with, but on January 22nd, this is when I'm going to create this. On January 23rd, this is what I'm going to do here. On January 26th, okay? So like this will actually kind of go through for me. And as I'm doing it, all I have to do is click it and I'm done. So once I get done with the day, I can move on and then know when I log in tomorrow, it will let me know who I need to actually follow up with on that standpoint. I can also edit it from here. So if I need to edit and I need to change the due date and say, you know what, this one actually, we're going to push this to the middle of February. Done. So now that is moved to the middle of February, which is absolutely amazing. So you can really tweak it per person. But before you really get in to do all of these things, again, I can't stress enough that if you just use the default follow-up tasks for each one in the transaction, like if you use that and that's not how you do business, you're probably not going to use this system. Sorry, what was that? You're scheduling the appointment. Okay. Let's see. Am I missing anything else in there?
Yeah, Nicole asked if she schedules an appointment through Moxie, does it send a client and a calendar invitation? I reference it. It's this is all as a guide for an agent on the tasks that they have assigned themselves.
Well, if I go in, like when I was under, so I'll go back to that other one. If I go in and use Moxie to schedule it, so if I use Moxie, so this is just telling you, you need to schedule this. Okay. This is saying, hey, schedule this, schedule that follow-up, whatever it is. But if I came down here, I think this is the one where I was at. So if I click on this and I go to schedule a meeting and let's see. If I can actually add that person to the invite. They'll actually be on it. So when I'm scheduling an appointment with Bob or Chris or whoever it is, if he's a contact that's in here, obviously if I'm on this, he should be,
Yes.
he's going to get tied to it, which I think is awesome. All right, let's see where we're at real quick. We're at 120. We still good on time?
About a little under 10 minutes.
Okay.
Back.
Too many people at once. Calendar feature. When you schedule Moxie, how do you
So what
count?
I did in my office, Jimmy, when we get new agents, I tell them, I said, look, first thing, especially when they're new, they need to start calling their prospects or their sphere of influence, figuring out where they're at. And one by one, they start adding them into Engage instead of syncing them all too, because some of them may already bought a house. Like, okay, well,
Yep.
let me put them in there. So it's a good way to reach out to your sphere of influence, make that initial contact, introduce yourself as a Century 21 real estate agent. I'm super excited. And then you figure out where they're at, and then you add them and you make that call. This way, you're doing your prospect at the same time as you're adding them into Engage.
Yep. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm even having agents that aren't using the system that have been around for a while. They're going through their books of leads. And what we're doing is going through, and once they have that conversation and they get one of two fingers, yes or no. If it's a yes, then we bring them in, we put them into under prospecting, and we actually start doing some other things like campaigns and neighborhood news and faves and saves and that kind of stuff. I wanted to show you, I know I said I would do this. I'll show you kind of what my one of my task list looks like. Let's see if I which one. So you can see like create buyer's presentation, faves and saves. So like this is all within a week. I'm having all these different conversations and then a lot of follow-up. Like I think when I have a prospect, like this is like every week I'm doing something for 180 days. And what I can do is once I get them and they say, yes, I'm ready now, I can click a button and move them into active. And then all of a sudden I have those tasks. So I have mine going for 6 months because I know the lifespan of a buyer is very long. And you'll see things like we do what we call a monthly wizard article, which is a monthly newsletter we make on our broker standpoint. And this is just a reminder to make sure that I'm sending this thing out every single month. And then a lot of this is just regular follow-up. I don't need all this fancy stuff. I just need to be reminded that I need to follow up with this person. I'm either going to call, text, reach out on the social, whatever that is going to look like is actually in here. And even down to like the pending side and stuff like that, creating a calendar, dispersing it, scheduling an inspection. These are all the same things that I talked about here. Some of the some of the similar things that we talked about. Well, just syncing your contacts to Engage, it's okay if you put them all in at one time. A lot of people will do like a bulk upload and things like that. But when you put them in to the sales flow, so I'm going to pull up Kenny Chesney, who's a really good friend of mine, if you guys didn't know that. He's not the singer. His name is just Kenny Chesney, whatever. When I have them in here, so like I can actually like, so this one is just a marketer. Okay. He's just in marketing. If I want to take him out of marketing and I don't want to do any of that stuff, okay, I actually have to change. I have to change their, go to their profile card and edit it. And I need to take them out. I need to make them like a collaborator or a personal, or in this case, as a manager, I could do recruit. Once I make them a collaborator or personal, they would not be able to be put into to the sales flow. So if you got any other real estate agent lenders and things like that that you don't want in there, set them up that way, and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, let's say, for instance, I'm going to make this one a buyer and just leave it. Again, we'll go through this more next week. But let's say, for instance, all of a sudden let's say Kenny here lost his job. Nobody's doing concerts anymore, all that stuff. So he needs to, he can't be looking for a house anymore. I can actually easily remove him by clicking the little arrow here and going to delete or deactivate. And I can either delete this transaction, which is not the person. It's just, he's a prospect right now, right? If I delete this, he's going to go back into the marketing phase. So I could still follow up with him and I could still do those things, but it's not going to be the follow-up that I have for a prospect or a new lead or an active or pending. So I can easily pull those things out. All right, so we got a few minutes left, so maybe we just go through the questions and see what we have.
Yes, Candace, this is recorded. I'll have it posted on the Century 21 Facebook global group. I'll post it on there. And I'll also add the Jimmy, did you say you have a PDF on your marketing plan?
Yes, I have it somewhere. I'll get it. I'll
Okay.
send that over to
And
you.
then I'll attach that so everybody will have it. So just look for it on the Century 21 Facebook group. Okay.
Let's see. We had a question on automatic text messages. No,
Nope.
Moxie does not do automatic text. They do have some things set up on an email campaign that can be automated, but no text. Collaborator and personal, it's think of a personal contact like your mother or a friend or a family. The collaborator to me is like other real estate agents, lenders, vendors, inspectors, things like
Contractor.
that. Because and the thing is if you identify it that way, you can filter from those. So like if you wanted to look at all of your personal, maybe you need to reach out to all of your personal contacts. I think you should anyways. Maybe you need to do that. And so you can easily filter that and know that they're your personal contacts, not like your vendors and networking partners and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, all right, so I have one that said, can you, where was it? Can you do a seller and buyer at the same time? There's not an option. There's not an option to choose a client as a seller and buyer at one time. You can have two separate transactions though, one for seller and one for buyer for that person. So if you do both of those, then you'll have both tasks in there. What I usually tell my agents though, and even for myself, is which one needs to happen first. Okay. Like, do they need to sell before they can even buy? Okay. Well, let's focus on those follow-up tasks because some of the follow-up tasks are still similar. It's call, reach out, do that kind of stuff. Maybe you add a couple other things that are in there. So you can do that. Another thing you can do too is you can also add multiple contacts to one transaction. So as I'm moving somebody through, which I'll work through next week, I can add a husband and wife to tie that transaction to both people, which is pretty cool. Delete doesn't remove it. Yes. What else do we have? You can purchase the
Like we're
mass
good.
text thing. I don't like I pay for the wave, the texting thing, but I do not do mass text of anything
Nope.
anymore. I do one-on-one, no more. All right, you want to see how to do a campaign? I got 3 minutes. It'll take me like 30 seconds. Is that cool?
Go for it.
All right, so adding a campaign, you're in Moxie here. Click on campaigns. Now mine will look a little funky because we have a lot of stuff for our brokerage, so please don't judge. But this is how you're going to do any campaign. This is how you're going to set up anything. So first thing you need to do is bring it into your library from the library from corporate or your brokerage. So as you click on add from library, let's do that again, blue box, add from library. And you're going to see here that we're on campaigns. And the very first one that I see is the new holiday campaign that's available for you. Side note, just so you know, if you are on the 2022 to 2024 campaign, it's not working anymore. It's done. So if you're expecting that to continue on, it did not. This is the brand new campaign for 2025. So if you have not got this new campaign in there, you need to do it if you're going to be running a holiday campaign. So from here, you could see all the campaigns. We're going to go ahead and click the right button here that says add. Now you can preview it if you really want to, so you can see what's coming out for this specific campaign. Okay, so you can see what's happening. We're going to add to campaigns, and then you're going to get this little green box that pops up. Once that pops up, that means it is in your library, and you can set it up. So you'll see here that I have a copy of it because I already have this one. All you have to do is click on the campaign from the My Campaign section, and it's just a few more clicks. We're going to come and we're going to go to our recipients and set it up. Click on Add Recipients. You can either do it individually, or you can come over here to where it says Groups, choose the group that you want, or select all contacts. You're going to click Add. Once you have added it, you want to scroll down and click Save. This may take a few minutes, depending on how many people you have that are being added to the campaign. But once this gray box up here on the top right turns blue, click it and it's set up and ready to go. I will not be setting up a second one of these. It's not happening right now. But that's how easy it is to actually get going on the campaign. Now, side note, which is kind of cool about campaigns, if you have a group, let's call it, I'll call it a recruiting group, or let's call it a buyer group. Let's say I have a group of buyers that I have made, that I put all my buyers in. And I set up the buyer campaign for that specific group. And then Bob calls me tomorrow and says he wants to buy a house, and I add him to that group. He will automatically be set on that campaign for that buyer campaign that's running on just that group, automatically starting on day 0. So talk about saving a little bit of time. I see. Any other questions before we're done? Campaigns. Do you recommend adding the calendar to the calendar you use every day, or do you recommend doing the dashboard? Well, I use both. So I use so Donna, I use both the dashboard because that's telling me who I need to follow up with every time. If you're not using the dashboard and you want to select, put it on your calendar every single time, and you're going to use your calendar, the whole idea is this is just going to help and remind you to follow up to stay top of mind. So when it's time for somebody to do something real estate related, we want them to think of you. So whatever's going to be easier for you on that standpoint, I do both. My follow up is going to be here on the dashboard. But like all of the holiday, like birthdays and anniversaries and house anniversaries and stuff, I get on my calendar. And maybe what I could do on the next one is I'll show you some of the really cool features that are in there to remind you when it's somebody's birthday, when it's somebody's anniversary. We can talk about some of the other campaigns. All right, let's.
Perfect, Jimmy. Well, thank you for your time. We're going to make sure that we stay right on track. So thank you very much for
Yeah.
doing part 1. And guys, stay tuned. We're going to do the same Zoom link, same password, same time next week. And then Jimmy will go more in depth. The reason we didn't want to go all of it in too much information, because if we break it down into sessions, for those of you that have brand new agents, it's easy to do sections at a time, do the basics like he was saying, and then focus on some of the other advanced settings that he'll go over next week. So I appreciate everybody showing up. Jimmy, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. And everybody have an amazing day.
Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody needs anything, please let me know.